Deadlift means picking up dead weight from the floor. Its actual meaning? A lift made from a standing position without the use of a bench or other equipment. Accessible by almost anybody from any place with any type of equipment, load, resistance, accommodating load, pressure, or object, this seemingly simple movement surely cannot have the complexity added to it. Or can it? The deadlift is linked to the most impressive display of human strength and performance. The Greeks call it dynami. The Romanians call it putere. The Buddhists use the phrase bala, Sanskrit Pali, meaning power, strength, force. And because of its simplicity, this movement is truly an exercise, a movement pattern that is easily performed but hard to master. But how did something that seems so natural go from being a way to move haystacks, bricks, stones, boulders, and other objects to moving over 1,000 pounds of pure iron? First, we must take a look at the history, how it became a movement that competitive powerlifters and bodybuilders use as a part of the foundation of their training. Possibly the first tale of what could be considered a deadlift comes from the 6th century BC. On the Greek island of Thera, archaeologists stumbled upon an unearthed massive boulder. They noticed that the boulder had an inscription on it, and it read, "Eumanathus, the son of Citrobolus, lifted me from the ground." It's rumored that Eumanathus had hoisted the boulder to hip height, but no concrete evidence of him actually doing so. Then, similar to Eumanathus' boulder feat, there was Babylon of Olympia, Greece, where there was a stone that has a hand imprinted in it with a similar description as the above tale. This boulder description reads, "Babylon, the son of Pola, has lifted me over his head with one hand." Unlike the other tale, historians tend to believe that this is more factual, stating that Babylon most likely lifted the stone with two hands and then held it overhead with one. One of the first strength feats that resembled a deadlift-esque movement was performed by British strongman Thomas Topham. He became well known through the 1700s for his odd strength feats, which brings us to the harness lift. For this movement, Topham would stand on a platform and loop a harness around the upper back of his neck, then lifting an astounding weight from below him. Some records state that his maximum lift was over 1,800 pounds with the harness lift. During a time where seeing someone with relative muscle tone made them a demigod, seeing a man lift 1,800 pounds would have been a god-like feat believable only through one's eyes, which gave the circus the inspiration for what's known as the silver dollar lift. This movement is still used in strongman competitions today, but originally, sometime in the 1800s, it entailed an old-time strongman deadlifting 2 barrels filled with silver dollars, connected by a barbell. They would pick up the weight and then invite performance attendees to try the weight themselves. The attendee could lift the weight and they earned the silver dollar. Let's move on to more pressing matters. 1991, Ed Cohen. A lift that was considered as one of powerlifting's most impressive feats, Ed Cohen pulled 901 pounds at a body weight of just 220. This record stood for over 2 decades until only recently being broken by Yuri Belkin and Kayla Woolen. After years of lifters hitting 800 to 900 pound deadlifts, the 1,000 pound seal was finally broken. In 2006, Andy Bolton became the first man to pull over the 1K mark and hit a 1,003 pound deadlift in competition. Fast forward to 2011, then Benedict Magnusson completed the heaviest raw deadlift, which now sits at 1,015 pounds. And of course, we can't forget Eddie Hall's 1,100 pounds that he completed at the 2016 World Deadlift Championships.
And all the naysayers on the 500 was the worst I've ever had. So yeah, and just the backlash from that was like, this guy hasn't got a chance in fucking hell, you know, like more me. Everybody, every comment I saw like possibly 470, maybe 475, but no way 500. And every single comment I read, I was like, let's fucking keep it coming, keep it coming. And it really did fire me. It got me so fucking angry that people said it wasn't possible. And I knew in the back of my mind it was. I knew it was going to be dangerous, and I knew it was a big risk to take, but I wanted that strongest man in history status.
It would take over 4 years for this deadlift to be beaten by none other than Eddie Hall's biggest nemesis, Hafthor Bjorgens. Deadlifting 1,104 pounds to become not only the world's strongest man, but the current world record holder for the deadlift. With this example, we begin an important choice when it comes to your deadlift: sumo versus conventional. Potentially the most difficult choice a lifter will make, the deadlift crossroad relies on a few important factors. Number 1, genetics. Genetics makes up a massive part of which deadlift choice will be more suitable for you. You don't need to be 6'9" and 180 kilos like Hafthor, but what you do need is to understand torso length, limb length, and mobility. Due to its wider stance, the sumo deadlift uses 20 to 25% less range of motion than the conventional deadlift. In my eyes, it seems like it will make it easier. However, that doesn't make the movement any easier than its counterpart. If anything, it will make it harder for someone with poor mobility and different type of limb lengths. Someone it will make easier with the sumo deadlift is someone, for example, with greater hip and ankle, knee mobility and flexibility. Here's a guide for you and how to identify what deadlift style is more suitable for your body. As you can see, someone with a longer torso and shorter arms should probably go towards the sumo deadlift stance, whereas someone with a longer torso and longer arms would much suit the conventional stance. Of course, this all depends on many different factors. Whereas someone with a long torso, average arms can do both, same with someone with a short torso and average arms. One of the most important things in my eyes is number 2, comfortability. Even though you might fall under the conventional deadlift side of deadlifts based on your limb length distribution, you may feel it's far more comfortable in a sumo deadlift position. Furthermore, previous sports and endeavors could have strengthened the glutes and middle back more and therefore would suit the sumo deadlift. Play around with these positions, chop, change and figure out where you sit. If we have a look at the 2016 IBF powerlifting style choices, it's clear that athletes from a lower bodyweight class prefer the sumo deadlift. And as the body weight of the athlete increases, so does the ratio of conventional deadlifters. This could be due to many factors, however, the standout one would be height, as generally the lower bodyweight classes would be shorter than the guys and girls lifting at the 100+ kilo bodyweight mark. So now that we've discussed deadlifting style, let's talk about technique. I'm not going to harp on the technique or the technical factors of the sumo deadlift, as it's not my preferred style of lifting. However, let's take a look at the conventional deadlift. Now, even if you sumo, these cues from the starting position universally stay the same. First things first, footwear. Flat-based shoes such as Converse or Vans are typically the go-to shoe for most powerlifters, as it maintains a flat foot on the floor similar to your bare foot. However, I just go the bare foot, as the shoe's heel will actually create an unnatural rise, putting you over the bar instead of allowing you to drive through your feet, off balancing you from your starting position. Second, the setup. Having your feet inside the shoulders, barbell up against your shins, I put my shoulders over the bar. This gives my body almost a 90-degree angle, allowing my hamstrings to be active in that starting position. I find it super important with any movement to practice the same setup position and routine each time. This will be more important in the following steps. Have your arms at shoulder width. Once your feet are over the bar, stiffen the elbows and grab the bar without changing the width. Be sure to take a deep breath. You want to have that full can of Coke, impossible to break. If you have a belt, I find it advantageous to push my stomach against my belt to really exaggerate that 360-degree angle of my core. Finally, just before the initial pull, think about crushing watermelons between your armpits by bending the bar back into your shins. This should activate the lats. Thirdly, the pull. Now that we're all set up and we're ready to lift, think about pushing the world away with your feet, while simultaneously pulling the bar into your shins. This will not only allow the muscle groups in reality that should be activating, like your hamstrings, core, and lats, but the entire time the bar is being driven from the floor, you should be feeling like you're demolishing those lats. Feel like those watermelons, if they were truly there under your armpits, are now just a mush of watermelon. Those lats should be on fire. This allows our back to stay like a table. Finally, the lockout. The pocket position from below the knees to the hips is for some people the biggest sticking point in a deadlift. Think about driving the hips forward by engaging your glutes and quads. Then from there, the deadlift returns to the floor in the reverse order. Hips drive back, chest goes over the bar, still squeezing the lats until the bar is comfortably on the ground. And they're the basics of the deadlift. As previously mentioned in my video, the back squat, Sebastian Orleb states that the squat complements the deadlift and vice versa. Develop a strong deadlift and watch your squat numbers explode. However, we've seen hundreds of different ways to perform a deadlift aside from the popular sumo and conventional stance. Some very well-known ones are the Romanian deadlift, which is an eccentric phase version of the movement focusing on developing huge hamstrings, and things like the hex bar deadlift, which changes the stimulus entirely, allowing the lower body to take more of the load rather than your grip. Of course, there's plenty more variations, but they're the popular ones. The deadlift itself has defined the fitness industry. Some people do it for time, some people do it for load, some people do it for health, people do it for their own profession, and some people do it to see how far that they can push the human boundaries of performance. What's your preferred style of lift? Comment down below. Want a deadlift program? My 8-week deadlift and bench program is in the link down below. Subscribe to my email list and check out my channel, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Stay a beast.